Hello Internet. How much should Hytale cost? Should the game be pay to play, or should Hypixel Studios make it free? Let's talk about it. There are several payment methods that Hytale could adopt when it releases. While the studio haven't given their official word on this yet, there's a lot of room for speculation based on what we know about the game and how each payment structure would have an impact. Additionally, the community have been very active on giving their own perspectives on the available options, giving their views and opinions. So, let's get into it. Starting out, free to play. Riot have taken Hypixel Studios under their wing, with some of their biggest games being a free to play model. League of Legends, Valorant, Wild Rift and more. It is possible the hugely successful model of Riot might be implemented. Riot Games know how to build a player base. League of Legends reigned champion of esports for a long time, dominating the most watched on Twitch and bringing in huge sums of money through their skin store. Valorant followed a similar model. Not only did Riot smash it out the park with the launch drop promotion, breaking Twitch numbers for a single game, but followed up with the same business model. This seems to be their thing. Free games with premium cosmetic skin options. But an important question is, could this work for Hytale? Personally, I don't think so. My logic is founded in two principles. Firstly, Riot apply this business model to 5v5 multiplayer games. Two teams fighting and competing. A highly competitive environment. Even something as simple as a skin can drive jealousy. I want that. Monkey see, monkey do, monkey wants shiny skins. The multiplayer competitive environment of many games by Riot encourage players to show off skins to their opponents. But Hytale Adventure Mode can also be played solo. The motivations behind cosmetics is almost completely removed if playing alone. Even in a co-op party, the same competitive drive is vacant. Would anybody buy cosmetics? Especially if just picking up armor and clothes around the world changes cosmetics anyway. And mods? Couldn't entire skins be recreated in the modding tools and never need purchasing? The single-player sandbox nature of Hytale would make cosmetics, even in-game items, which itself gets dangerously close to a pay-to-win model, into a commodity that can be completely created third-party. I'm not sure Hypixel would make their money back. So many players would just opt to play the entire single-player and to never contribute to the company monetarily. The aforementioned examples of Riot's own games are also reliant on a large player base. Each player queues up to be matched against a team, so Riot have plenty of incentive to get as many players into the game as possible, even if it means giving them access for free. They need to reduce queue times and diversify the player base. A single player or co-op game doesn't really have these same dependencies. And, on top of that, servers might be hard done by too. Apart from donations, monetization of servers will likely come from custom items, skins, and rewards, access to areas, roles, and more. If half of these are microtransactions from the official Hytale team to support a free-to-play model, servers and the developers will be competing to make the best items to sell. The third-party servers will be in direct competition with the game they are hosted in, and while this could drive up the quality of content to stand out, it could also hike up the prices and the pay-to-win paywalls of must-have items, locking things you need behind transactions just so they can force enough payments. What about partial payment? An idea I've seen is for a limited version of the game to be available for free. Then, for premium, we open up some more features and access. Maybe only the first 3 zones in adventure mode, or a level cap, or maybe no story and plot aspects of the world. Instead, just a raw sandbox. Or maybe no access to servers and multiplayer. What else do you think could suit this model? Let me know in the comments. I'd like to know, because while I'll dismantle each of the above points and show why, in my opinion, they wouldn't be a great idea, that isn't to say the community or the Hypixel team don't have better ideas. Firstly, what about limiting the zones or levels? Making the free version a demo of the game while blocking late game access. World of Warcraft does a similar thing, free to level 20, then pay to go beyond. Well, it seems like a half-baked solution. Firstly, the example. World of Warcraft introduced this after years of successfully running the game as a way to bring in new players. Doing this out of the gate could be risky. But, to dive deeper, limiting the adventure of what can be played as a single-player game seems like a pointless approach. It comes across as a "I'll take anything I can get" argument from players who wouldn't pay otherwise. Imagine watching a movie for free, but it stops 30 minutes in with a paywall. You might as well commit to all or nothing. And similarly, especially with the actual story and RPG elements that Hytale look to feature, we would be getting a taste of a story we'd never be able to finish. Not unless we do what we could have done at the start and pay the price to purchase. But maybe no story. Maybe just the raw sandbox? Well, maybe, but it seems like more work than would be worthwhile to create an entire free version of the game, still full of many features, for a player base who are so isolated from the story and lore, they wouldn't know what they're missing. I can imagine now this version being branded Free Minecraft, and it pretty much would be. If all you pay for is a story, many players would jump from Minecraft to Free Hytale and never miss a beat. It's hardly as if Minecraft's story and plot are its most captivating features. All the work to painlessly remove the story elements from the game, finding ways for the world to make sense without the overarching narrative, and in return, they get almost no payments because a sandbox almost never gets old. I think it's unlikely they'd put in all the effort to take out features without breaking anything, only for a free version. And the last of my free models, though not the only options, the servers being limited access. I won't spend too long on this one, it's quite one-dimensional. Sabotaging a third-party server by limiting access from players who haven't even spent money on the game yet anyway, who could potentially pay for things on the servers to help them out, is just, well, something tells me it won't happen. Maybe, just maybe, they could justify limiting access to their own official servers, but that just seems like the worst business model imaginable. Free game and no servers to make up for the costs. Of all possibilities, this seems like the least likely. Not only would Hypixel Studios take a hit by offering free access, but to then make server owners carry that hit too would be... skip this one. It won't be happening. I had to include it. Subscription. So I haven't seen this approach talked about too much. There's probably a reason for it. Subscription models are not common practice in many games, especially ones with the format of Hytale. It works for World of Warcraft, a hugely successful MMO with ongoing server costs and maintenance, along with content updates. But a heavily client-side single-player game, with many third-party servers, I'm going to say no to this one. Lastly, of course, premium. Many comments I've seen either champion or complain about gatekeeping. It seems a common argument for making the game premium is that it prevents kids who can't afford it from creating a Fortnite-like environment. Look, I'm down to avoid a Fortnite culture, but this is definitely a misrepresentation of the core principles a premium structure offers. From a player perspective, sure, the end result, the player base of the game, is one of the most obvious outcomes of these payment models. But it can be easy to forget about Hypixel Studios and the fact they're still a business, with economic needs to fulfill, development costs to recover, staff to pay, funding for future content, Hytale or otherwise. Frankly, pay to play just works. I think premium speaks to an older generation of video games. As a player who has lived through several console generations at this point, I still have a longing for the older model, one becoming increasingly infrequent among greedy corporate releases. A normal transaction to purchase a product. I want a thing, I pay a one-time sum of money, and now it's my thing. Just like a store, everything we pay for, simple and effective. Don't get me wrong, so many games still follow the pay once, play whenever model, but the modern culture of microtransactions and subscriptions, along with DLC and season passes, has certainly become more common. And it can be abused too, and that just makes me sad. Sure, games do it well too, but there's some kind of nostalgic romance behind paying once and being done with it. And again, Hytale is a game with some heavy focus around single-player experiences. There are co-op and server options too, sure, but a whole single-player game for free? That seems a little unlikely. Not that this hasn't been done before either, but at that point, what do we pay for? As a reference, Minecraft is the obvious go-to. It's a one-time purchase from Mojang, you own the game, play single-player to your heart's content, join any server you like, and let the servers work out how to monetize themselves without competing with the game itself for your cosmetic or reward purchases. Not to mention, the upfront payment definitely hasn't stopped kids from getting in anyway, so the initial point about gatekeeping really doesn't work, no matter what side of the argument you're on. I want to drive this point home because I think it's important. Hypixel Studios have come from being a server team to a game development team. It's likely they moved to working on Hytale because of changes to the Minecraft EULA for server monetization, which cut the income of the Hypixel server by 80 to 90% by some estimations. Granted, avoiding pay to win is important, but Hypixel don't want to be too overbearing on server owners and their monetization either. They know, having been through it, what it's like to run a server. A free microtransaction model for the game would reintroduce some of the challenges they themselves faced all those years ago. And, because I think this needs to be emphasized too, in a sandbox game with full modding support, what could they possibly sell in microtransactions that we couldn't get or make ourselves? unless the modding is restricted somehow instead, which I doubt anybody is advocating for. At least servers control their own narrative, giving their assets to you on connection and potentially making them premium. In single player, modding seems to be an open free-for-all, far too powerful to control with microtransactions. I really don't think a model other than premium would be sustainable for a game like this. To summarize, such an expansive single player experience, for free, offers too much. Restricting this feels like a way for free players to find any excuse to get something without paying. The actual value to Hypixel Studios for creating limited access or demo versions seems small. Microtransactions would likely sabotage either Hypixel's revenue or the quality of the game, or both, potentially ruining third-party server hosts' own monetization abilities in the process. Or vice versa, with servers stealing all the microtransactions from Hypixel, and a subscription just doesn't make sense across the board. Hytale really doesn't put itself out there as the kind of game to be a monthly payment subscription. So, in my view, I would say a pay-to-play model is the most likely, most practical, the easiest to imagine when considering Minecraft uses the exact same system, and the most fair to everybody involved. But what do you think? Did I miss off any major points that could be made for any of the payment models? What kind of price do you think Hytale will be? Feel free to comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this content and want to see more. I've started separating my YouTube content, and this is, in theory, my high-quality channel, where I try to post only the best of the best, including all of the future scripted Hytale videos. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. And if you want to see more variety games, unscripted entertainment, and live content, check out my other channel too. But until then, I hope to see you in the future.